Yeah, YouTubers, Tasman here, bringing you another episode of Foundry Virtual Tabletop from the ground up. I think that's what I called it, version 12. So in our last episode, we talked about how to get Foundry, how to do these basic configurations, and what the main interface looks like. And I did mention that Foundry itself, as powerful as it is, really does not have an interface. It requires systems that are created by content creators. And I wanted to use the simple world building system because it will let you see and I think appreciate more what these content creators are doing. So if you really like something they're doing and they have a Patreon or, some kind of donation, maybe you'll be a little more inspired to actually donate or whatever. But anyway, so if I remember right, I think we did create our simple world. We did. I remember actually now. One thing I want to do for this is we're actually going to get a module because it's going to help us see some of the behind the scenes data. This isn't really one you'll use in games or anything, but it definitely can help you get a glimpse without having to type a lot of code to see the structure of the data that Foundry is doing. And what this one is called, what you're going to do is you're going to go to install module and you're going to wait for it to load because there's a lot of them, 2,543, and that number is constantly going up. We're going to look for Kobold, Cobold, like so. And we're looking for this guy right here, the Koboldworks data inspector. And then you'll just go ahead and click the install. You'll wait a few seconds and it will install. Once you're done, you can close it and you will have a single little block like this if you're on this grid, and it will basically look just like this guy right here, Koboldworks Data Inspector. So we're going to use that because it's just going to let us see the data behind the scenes, like I said. So let's go ahead and launch our simple world. So you come in here. I think I talked about these, that you have the launch world edit. I believe I've done all that. I didn't write real good notes of what I actually did, but I think I covered everything in the base Foundry screens. If not, leave a comment below and say, actually, you forgot this, and I will definitely cover it. So you're going to just click the little launch world button here, and you'll be greeted by this guy. It looks like we changed it to even the simple layout. The default will be Game Master, and the default password will be nothing at all. Click Join Game, and you'll be greeted by the interface that I guess you would say it's the system accessing the API of Foundry. So let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing here. So there's various areas. We have over here what we call the layer controls. These are all the different layers that Foundry actually has things on. You have your actor layer, which is this guy, or your token control. You have the measurement for like your measurement templates and such. I don't think we can't actually click on any of these yet, but that's okay. You have your tiles layer, which is going to be tiles that you put onto your map. So individual tiles for, like if you have a wagon or something like that you can move along or whatever you want. We have our drawing layer for drawing and writing words and stuff. We have our walls layer, or our walls control. We have our lighting control and our sound control. And this is new to 12. We have the region controls. And finally, we have the notes or journal notes, bookmarks, whatever you want to call them, those. So this whole area, when I say the layer controls, that's what it's talking about. All these have access to the individual layers that you're looking at Foundry through. If you want to imagine kind of like old old cartoons before they had computers and stuff, they would use kind of like these transparency sheets, and they would draw on top of one, and then they'd layer one on top of it, and then they'd draw the next thing. And each of these are their own layer, the ones above the other and stuff. So each, it's not necessarily in this order, but there is an order, with the actual canvas layer being the bottom, which is basically your scene. The anvil is just their little logo. It's not really anything. I know there are a couple modules that make it so it's clickable and it actually does something. But as a default, doesn't do anything. Right here, because we don't actually have a scene, we have what's called the scene navigation bar, which will have all your different scenes or maps, if you want to call them that, and you can toggle between them. You'll definitely see that as we go through, but just know right in this top area is what is called the scene navigation bar. Down here we have our players list. This will show you all players that are connected to the game. You can, if you have, you know, lots of players, you can actually shrink it down to make it a little more space saving. Then this next area right here, we have our macro hotbar. This is for your macro buttons and stuff like that. So you can just click on the number 1 and it will do whatever that macro is. If I just click on this with nothing in it, it will want to create a new macro. And it used to be that even if I closed it, it created a macro. This is for the macro folder, so you can actually see your different macros. I use a module that actually adds it up here so that you actually have one. That module is called Sidebar macro, which we'll end up using. Like I said, we're not going to go into this a whole lot at the moment. The other thing about this macro bar, as you can see, there are 10 macros that you can put in there, but then you can also have this little guy will scroll to 5. So if I go up or if I go down here, you'll see that technically this is 1-5, maybe you could think of, 2-5 or 5-1, however you want to think of it. If I put things on this macro bar on the first one, it's not going to show up on the others. So you actually have a total of 50 macro slots that you can use for kind of hotkeys. And then finally, we have our sidebar tabs. And this is where kind of the meat of what is going on, the information and all that stuff of your game is going to be. So first, up here we have these little guys. We're just going to go over those real quick as well. So the first one, the little 2 chat bubbles, is exactly what you might think. It is your chat window. We're going to go ahead and clear it just for now. The next one is your combat tracker or encounters. This is where when you get into combat, it will keep your initiative order. It will automatically, you know, let your players end their turn, and the next player and the mobs and everything will be in here and being tracked. The next one here is our scenes or our maps. So this will be all the information about our scenes. Then we have our actors. These are all your players, all your NPCs and stuff like that for your campaign or your world. Then we have the next one, which is our items. This is for custom items, or you can drag other items in here. We have our journal, which is all our notes. You can give access to your players so that they can create their own notes, you know, keeping notes of the story that's going on, you know, what quests and stuff like that. We have next our roll tables, which are kind of obvious. You can create roll tables. We have cards, so if you want to create a deck of cards for the deck of many things or something like that, you can actually create that, and there's some templates in here, I believe, that will let you do that. We have our sounds for our playlists and for our soundboards that we can have in here that we can control the music volume level, the environment, which is, the sounds going on in the environment, and then your interface, like when dice are being rolled, how loud that is, or if there's other elements of the interface that have noise attached to them when you do it. And then finally we have, well, not finally, I guess, we have our compendiums, which is groupings of different types of data. For example, we might have our bestiary would be in a compendium called actors, and this would keep all your different things. So you could have players, you can create your own, lots of systems. The Pathfinder 2e systems comes with just a metric ton of these things, because they basically allowed Foundry to publish everything. Even their newest core books and stuff will, as I think was it Player Core just got added by the Foundry, what's it called? The Voluntary Foundry Pathfinder team or something like that. So that will be found in here. And then finally, these two little cogs are all your configurations and settings. So first thing you'll always keep track of is, like, if you're watching my videos, I try and remember to usually start with this being the screen that's up, so you can actually see what version of Foundry Virtual Tabletop I'm actually running and what, I guess, subversion. So 330 version 12 stable. So that gives you the information. Then it also says what system I'm using. So we're using simple world building, and we're doing 082, and how many modules are actually active. So what we're going to do first is we're actually going to go in here and we're going to go activate our module that we just did. Yours will be really easy to find because you don't have all these other modules, but it's right there. You're going to hit save. It's going to say in order to save, it needs to launch your Foundry Virtual Tabletop. And once again, mine is actually on Molten Hosting. As I mentioned in the previous episode, great hosting service. Been very pleased with them. You should check them out. I don't have any promotion code as far as I know for it. So, if anyone ever says anything, say, hey, yeah, Tasman sent me. But there's not a use promotion code or coupon code Tasman or anything. So anyway, as you can see, it restarted. You can't actually see where that is until we get into more, but I just want that active. The other thing you're going to want to do when you first set up a world is go into your user management. If you know who's going to be in your world, you can actually set them all up there. But I like to get this taken care of right away. One thing I don't want is the actual GM control to be passwordless, so that if a player goes to connect to the table and I'm not quite there, or I'm on a different account on it, they can't just log in as game master and have full control. So one of the first things I always do is, even before doing any modules, I just wanted to do that so I didn't forget it later, is go under user management, and it will go back out, and you'll see here we have game master, and it has a bunch of dots, but this is just a template or a boilerplate, whatever you want to call it. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that, and I'm going to type in a password like so, and I'm the game master, so I just leave that. If I want to create more players, I go ahead and say this, and we'll create a player called Taz. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change my game master name to T4ZZM4NN, like so. And then I'll have my player be Tazzy, T4ZZIE, which is also a one I use for different things. And this one, it's not so important that you actually put a password, but usually, I might, if I have a bunch of people that I know, usually I don't really care too much about a password. But if it's, just random people off the internet, I might want to lock them down to just their account so they can't log on someone else's character. So right now I'm gonna leave it blank, but I recommend if someone that's going to use it is at all questionable, or you just want that extra security, you can actually password protect it. You can also set your players, so the people that you do add, let's say you have an assistant game master that will help you run it, and kind of manage other things in the back end for you, doing the research or finding monsters or items and stuff like that. Just help the game go. There's actually multiple things. So you have a game master, you have the assistant GM, you have trusted players, which will have a little more ability within it. Usually, I think trusted players can actually like draw and stuff like that, where players I don't think can. We'll look at that. So you have trusted player, and then you have none. I've never actually used none. I would imagine that that's not going to be anyone that can log in. Maybe that's if it's a player that is on hiatus or something like that, and you just want to keep the login menu clean. You would set it to none, and maybe it won't show it. Let's test it. So we're going to go ahead and do this as a player. Then I'm going to call this nobody. Let's do uppercase. Let's test that one. We'll have it be no password also. And we're going to set it to none. I'm just curious if it'll actually even show up. So because I've changed the game master info, it will actually have to have me relog in. So if you've got a bunch of people on the table and you go change anything with the game master, it's going to boot them and they're going to have to relog in. So just know that you probably want to come do this even before you think about inviting anyone. So here's our little list, and you can add even more if you want. You can click on this configure permissions button. I'm going to show you where that is in just a minute. Once we get into it, I'm going to show you where that is, but you can actually click this to get a real quick wait there. Let's go ahead and hit save and return. And you'll see it boots us out. And now we're back here. I'm actually going to go back to our other settings for it real quick. I'm going to go back in here, edit world, and set it back to the default because I just like it. So update world, there we go, hit that. Now we'll have the nice big one that has game details. Let's see if I'm right. No, nobody's there. Can nobody log in if I blank that out? Nobody does not have that. Okay, maybe I was hoping that if they were marked as none, it just wouldn't even show it in here, and that way you could have a way of disabling a player so that, if they're on hiatus, they don't show up. So, yeah, it looks like it still shows up. It just won't let them log in. All right, so now I have a password. Hopefully I typed it right. Yes, I did. All right, so let's go in under configurations real quick and look at this. So under configure settings, we will see that this basically shows you your different modules and the actual system itself. So you can see all together there are 41 settings. There are 32 that are just the Foundry core. There are 2 that are the simple world building, and then there are 7 that are part of the data inspector. So if I only want to see the core, I can just click, the inspector. You'll see scrolling up and down, that's all it shows. If I click all, it's going to show everything all the way down, which is what I usually do. There's also the filter up here. So like if I wanted data, now you can see it's only pulling up the data inspector or things that actually have data in their information. So you can do that. All right, so let's go ahead and right here, you'll see open permissions configuration. This is the exact same button that we saw in the other thing. So remember I said players, which are these guys right here. And if we come down here, I think it's called create drawings. Let's see, broadcasting, audio, video, pings, token settings, create cards, create journal entries, playlist tokens, manual roles. ruler measurement. There we go. So use drawing tools. So as you can see, players cannot use the drawing tools. Trusted players can. But trusted players can do all these other things as well, like use a file browser, make manual rolls and such. You can change this by saying, well, you know, I really don't care if all players use drawing tools, just by clicking that and hitting save. That way you don't have to give them the trusted players, which allows them other things. You can just customize what they actually get. You can see the Game Master, basically everything has a tick in it. Many of them don't have the option of unticking them, while some do. Like you can automatically turn off the mouse so that, you know, you can't see the cursor of the Game Master. I believe this also makes it so that you can't see the rulers and such. Maybe that's this guy. But we'll go through all those. So anyway, this is where you get the user configuration. All right, so I think, actually, the one other thing I wanted to do, I totally forgot, is when I was talking about the players area over here, if you right-click on your name as a player, there will be the option to do user configuration. Here you can set up information about your player. So if the player's name is different, you'll have to have the GM change that, because that's over in the other thing. But if you have an avatar, if you've given it to the GM, you might be able to actually load it, or he can, or she, if it's a she. You can change whatever your default color. As you can see here, Tasman by this little dot is a little blue. I like to do magenta. It stands out for me. So I do 255, and it's easy to remember what the RGB code is, which is 255. So 250255 gives us this nice magenta. If you have player pronouns that you want to put in there, you can do that. And once you actually have a character created and stuff, the GM will make it available to you, and you will be able to click on this and select your character that you will have control of. If you only have a single character, you never really have to select your character. If you're controlling multiple, or a familiar or something like that, then you will sometimes have to highlight and do your own character. So once we've done that, we hit save, and now you'll see that we have this nice little pink box. All right, so we're at 22 minutes. I think this was a decent, really, really basic covering of the interface of actually Foundry, I guess the API. I don't know what to call it, because this is the system's interfacing of the Foundry core. We will definitely be going over all these different things. We're even going to make a character so you can see how basic Foundry actually is at creating character. This is one area that your developers just do an outstanding job. So I think we're going to end it here. Hopefully you did enjoy it. We're at, what, 23 minutes-ish. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Aside from that, comment, like, subscribe, click that little notification bell. Join my Discord. Really good way to chat with me. Tell me about, questions you might have, things that you think I missed. Really good way to talk with me, and I usually am pretty quick to reply to those. And yeah, tell other people about my channel, have them check it out. If they like what they see, they can sub. We grow the channel. And everybody's a winner in that scenario. It's completely free. So yeah, that's it, my friends. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.